Hi guys, Mixtresses and Mixters. This is Mixtress Ray. Sorry for the fan noise, but there's no air conditioning in my tiny little room, so I just have to do it. Okay, I am going to do, this is going to, obviously you clicked on the video so you know what it is. This is going to be my Tarot Collection 2020 video. I do have a couple of Kickstarters that I've backed that will come in by the end of the year. And I also pre-ordered Dark Goddess Tarot. However, for the most part, this is static. This is where I do have that like depth year goal that I made for myself, which is like the only thing I've stuck to in my depth year, which is that I am only allowed to have 20 tarot decks and 20 oracle decks. So because of that, I think I'm at, what am I at? I guess they're all here. I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I'm at 19 right now. So once my Kickstarters and my pre-orders come in, I will be over my limit, but I only need to get rid of like 1 or 2. So I've got some ideas about which ones those might be, but anyway, whatever. Everybody knows that people that collect things, their collections are not static. So this is what I'm working with. I'm going to go in chronological order like I did on my Instagram post. I just did one of those like all my decks 2020 hashtag things. So I'm going to go in chronological order. Hopefully you guys can see everything. And I'm going to show you like what I actually... Some stranger is at my neighbor's house pulling a giant like hose or cord or something around their tree towards their backyard. What the fuck? But my neighbor's car is there, so hopefully he is consenting to this particular situation. I'm going to hope that it's okay. Okay, so I'm going to show you my decks in chronological order as to when I got them. So this is Tarot of the Cat People. I got this. One of my mom's, like, this is like a close family friend, one of her good friends, Phil. He had this deck, and as you can see, the box is, the box is actually from the 80s. Or, I mean, the whole thing is from the 80s. But 1985. Let's check because it maybe isn't from, I mean, that's when it was originally published. Let's see. This is the 3rd edition. I think that's what that means when there's like this little string of numbers. The last number is what edition. So since it was originally published in 1985, although it says 84 on the copyright on the cards. So I'm not like a historian of Tarot of the Cat People, but he had this one still in the wrapping whenever, and for some reason he thought of me, and my mom's been helping him for years now. He's kind of a hoarder. She's been helping him like clean out his stuff. And so this is like a deck that, even though I don't use it that much, this is a deck that kind of started my tarot journey. So this was given to me in November of 2018. I believe. It could have been like October, somewhere around there. Somewhere around fall of 2018. And I was just really struck by it. Like, I've had tarot decks in my life ever since I was a teenager. But all the tarot decks that, for some reason, the ones that I was drawn to, they were almost always Los Scarabeo decks, and they were almost always Marseille style or Pip style. And this is my very first deck that I've ever had that was in like the more RWS style. And so I was really struck by it. You know, I first took it out of the box and I was thinking to myself, well, you know, I've always wanted to learn tarot, but I've just never, I was assuming that I wasn't going to connect with it. But I did, and I really liked it. And I liked that it has more illustrated pips. Or, yeah. And I was just so struck by, like, the diversity in this deck, and, like, the cheesy 70s, 80s quality and sort of the strange fantasy realm that is kind of depicted in this deck. And I really don't take this deck out that often, but this deck kind of started it all. And at that point, I decided to... It's possible that this came first before this deck, but I had just gotten a new phone, and it was a Samsung. It was my first Android phone. And so I was looking around at like tarot apps and stuff, and I downloaded an app called like Galaxy Tarot or something, and that has the RWS, which I had always thought that I wouldn't be interested in the RWS, but that particular app kind of came at the same time that this deck came into my life, and those two things together sort of started my tarot obsession once and for all. Like, I started to finally understand tarot when I never had before, even though I've had decks in my life, like I said, since I was a teenager. And then January 2019, I started looking for, like, I knew I wanted more than just the Tarot of the Cat People deck. And so I started looking for decks that I might resonate with. And at that time, like in January, February, I bought several decks, which you're about to see. But this is the first one that I bought that I just like felt really drawn to. Wild Unknown. So this is the first edition that I got on eBay. I got really lucky and I got it for $15 on eBay. Actual first edition. I thought it was going to be a knockoff, but when it came, it was actually real, and I was super excited. So the one that I bought back then in January was like a third edition, but this is the first. And this just like took it to the next level. Like for me, it was that RWS Galaxy app, Tarot of the Cat People, and Wild Unknown that really began my tarot journey, even though it's only been a year and a half. And I've had several other tarot decks in my life, but they just never really... I was always just like looking up the meanings in the book whenever I would get it out, and I never actually learned the meanings. I learned the meanings through Wild Unknown, Rider-Waite-Smith, and not even really Tarot of the Cat People, because that was just kind of a deck that made me realize that there was a different way to view tarot. Like, I didn't realize that there was a difference between like illustrated RWS style decks and Marseille style Pippish decks. And I just never could connect with that Marseille style. So, everybody's seen the Wild Unknown. It's still one of my top 5 favorite decks, and it's very important to me. I just recently put it back in the box. I usually keep it out, but I've decided that I don't like it getting all dusty when I'm not using it, so I'm going to start keeping it in the box again. And then I first bought the Centennial version that you guys saw in. If you've seen a lot of my videos, you've seen like that Centennial version of this Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But then later when I realized I really actually love this deck, despite the fact that like the artwork style, like I never wanted to buy this deck. I always thought this was the basic bitch tarot deck and I never bought it. But when I started really learning the meanings, I realized its value and I started to like the art strangely, you know? Like I still kind of look at it and I'm like, well, it's not really my style of art. But the symbolism and the history of this deck and all that stuff, like, so once I realized I really do resonate with this deck, actually, I found this copy on eBay, and it's from like as far as I can tell from like different people that know what they're talking about on how to date these decks, the type of cardstock, the box, all that stuff. It's one of the yellow boxes, but it still has the copyright on it. So as far as I can tell, this is like a mid to late 80s version. And it was in great condition. It's kind of like yellowed on the edges, but I love it. It's got that like buttery cardstock, and I just keep this one out so I can grab it just anytime. Then I got, this was also in January of 2019, I got the keep it in this like Ipsy bag that someone gave me that was my Secret Santa at work. The Moon Power Tarot. So my mom bought this for me. She was staying with me in January 2019 because she was like downsizing her house and she was having some things done to her new house. So she was staying with me for like a month, and like as a thank you gift, she bought me this deck because one day I was like watching a walkthrough of it on YouTube and she saw, and she was like, oh my God, you have to have that. And I was like, Mom, it's really expensive, because this is like the first independently published deck that I got. So I wasn't quite sure if I didn't know I was going to start collecting tarot decks, you know? So I wasn't sure if I wanted to spend like $60+ on a deck. And she was like, don't even worry about it. You have to have that. I'm buying it for you right now as a thank you. So I love it. I really love this deck. I got her other deck, Star Power, but right now it's in what I call the purgatory drawer because I'm probably going to pass it on. I just don't really feel like I need to have both of her decks. But I love this one so much. I really have resonated with it a lot. The fact that it's just sort of like alien women deck. I really like that. And it's so strange. Like, how is this the Eight of Cups? I don't know, but sure. You know? I love it. And hey guys, if you're thinking about it, I have had it like a year and a half now, and the gilding is really kind of great on this. Like, it's somewhat faded, but it doesn't have like chips in it or anything like that. It's just kind of faded a little bit, but it's great. Okay, make sure we're still recording and everything because I can't really see what's happening. Okay, and then February 2019, I got Marigold Tarot. This is one that I keep. My desk is right over here with my computer and everything, and I have these two little shelves where the window is right there. Or not in front of the window, but on that wall. And I just keep this out all the time. Just right there. And this is like, I would consider this my soul deck. I resonate with it so much. This is the first deck that, like, even it is kind of more Pippish, but like once I wrapped my brain around the meaning of the cards, now I can handle Pippish decks. But it just, I didn't realize, you know, whenever I was a beginner, you know, I didn't even know the difference when I was a teenager between tarot and oracle decks. So I definitely didn't know that there was something other than the Pip style, Marseille style decks. And now I'm totally fine with those, and actually I really like that. I don't really like Marseille. I don't have any Marseille decks, but like that Pip and or Marseille style of deck I do like. Just spin my cards. That's why you wear masks, children. Anyway, I love, this is my favorite deck to shuffle because of it's like thinner cardstock, linen finish, and I just love it. I have 2 copies of this deck. This is my favorite deck to shuffle. I love it so much. It is getting real chipped because it's got that mirror finish. But the other copy of it that I have is like the black edged cards. So basically I just keep it, like if I lose a card or something, I'll just like, yeah, I'll have a backup. I'll have to figure out what to do about the fact that the edging is different on my other deck if that happens, but I love it. I love this deck. Then I got Shadowscapes. This is one that like I did not think I was gonna get. Can you guys even see that whole thing? Kinda, okay. But I had a friend who, like, she showed me this deck because we were talking about tarot or something. We were texting, like an old friend. And she said that I reminded her of the World card. The World card, she said, the person in the world card looks like me. And I was like, oh, maybe I do need to try this deck out. And this is one that, like, I really do love it. And I'm gonna say the same thing that a lot of people say about this deck, which is because the artwork is so intricate, I just wish these cards were bigger. And I don't like big tarot decks in general. Like, I love this. I know a lot of people hate it, but I love this Llewellyn cardstock. This, like, super flexible. Like, I think it's durable. Like, it gets kind of chipped on the edges, but who fucking cares? I don't know. I like a worn-in deck. I'm fine with that. But I do wish that the cards were bigger for this particular deck because the artwork is so intricate. And I know that it would be... I know I would pull it out more and it'd be easier to read with if I could see the imagery better. Like, the fact that, like, from across the room or even, like, laying a spread out on a table with this deck, there's just so much going on. This is better for, like, a daily card draw or, like, path working or, like, just pulling a card and meditating on one single card. This is better for that. So I don't actually get it out that much, but I do still really love and appreciate the artwork. And it's so cute and sweet that I had to put it in this, like, black lace bag to, like, balance out the cuteness. Yes, yes. I'm weird. Okay. Then I got Moonchild. I probably still would have been, like, late winter, early spring last year that I got Moonchild. And initially I was disappointed with it because, like, on Instagram and stuff, I think people most of the time will up the saturation on the cards. But in person, the colors are very pale, very not saturated. Like, it probably even looks more saturated, like, in the view screen right now than it really is. So I was initially disappointed with that because I like saturated colors. But I have grown to, like, this is one of my top 5 decks. I have grown to really love and resonate with this deck. It's a bitch to shuffle the way that I fucking shuffle. And it gets like the cards are so thick and stiff that they get a bend in them pretty quickly. So you can see they're kind of bowed. But, I mean, it's fine. Again, I like a worn-in deck. Gotta, like, babble a little less because this is gonna be the longest video ever if I just talk about all my feelings about these decks. Next, set these aside. I'm actually gonna put this one back where it goes since I'm right here. Then I got Halloween Tarot. This is one that, like, I have several decks that, like, when I first saw them, I thought they were so fucking cheesy. Like, Shadowscapes, I felt like that about before I got it. I felt like that about this one. I was like, what? This deck is cheesy as fuck. I don't want this deck. I hope I'm not out of shot. That's gonna be embarrassing if I have to do this whole video again. But it is cheesy goodness. I love it. I really do. It's not totally my kind of art style, but I love that it's pretty much a straight up RWS clone, but just Halloween style. I like it. And this is the one that I typically keep in my purse since it comes in a tin. So I'm going to set that aside because I will be putting that back in my purse. Last Summer is when I got Santa Muerte. And this is one that, like I've said in videos, like, I still don't feel like I've completely resonated with this deck. However, I think it's beautiful, and I do get good readings with it. And it's like, it's almost like it doesn't really speak my language, but it's still, when its message comes through, it comes through so clearly. It's like it doesn't always communicate, but when it does, it's really great. Like this card, 5 of Cups, and there's this like maze inside his mind, like, and he's in the water chest deep, like he's drowning and he's stuck in his own mind. Like that communicates so clearly to me. So this is one that, like, I feel like our journey is ongoing. Like, even though I've had this deck over a year now, I feel like we haven't completely bonded, but I feel like it is still to come. Like, I have no thoughts of getting rid of this deck, even though we haven't completely bonded after a year, which is normally not how I feel. Normally I'll let go of a deck pretty quickly if I don't feel like I'm getting on with it, but I love Santa Muerte. I do. I do love it. And it was like either the same day or like a day or two later that Children of Letha came in the mail. Even though I had ordered this one first, I think. But it just took longer for it to get to me. And this is like, this deck I would pull, I've said this before, but I would pull it out all the time if the cardstock were easier to shuffle. I have gotten to a point finally after having it a year that I feel like I've started to break it in, or started to finally get used to it, because I can actually shuffle it okay now. At first, I just couldn't shuffle it at all. But yeah, it's getting better. But this is like that, like, super rose petal finish, where, like, sometimes, like, I'll get a card of the day, like, from my app on my phone, and I'll want to just flip through the current deck that I'm using to find that particular card. And with these, like, rose petal finish matte cards, it's really hard to flip through a deck, because you sometimes end up with 2 cards, and sometimes you can't tell because they're so fucking thick. And, like, sorry, I hate to be a broken record about complaining about cardstock, because for most people this would be perfect cardstock because it's thick and durable and it feels so nice to the touch. But for me, I have a hard time shuffling it, and when I have a hard time shuffling a deck, I don't get it out as often as I would like. Based on this fucking artwork, I really love it. I love that, like, you know, all the major arcana are like mythological creatures that are like half animal, half human, and oh, I just love it. It's that Hermit card. The High Priestess is like an octopus lady. Like, I am all about this deck. Some of the cards in, like, the minor arcana are a little, like, gory, and some of the knights are, like, actively, look at that 10 of Cups, you guys. Ugh, the colors. I really love this deck, and it's very diverse. I love it. Anyway, the knights, a lot of them are, like, actively slaying a dragon in the card, and there's, like, blood, and it's a little violent. But the cool thing about this deck, the artist, Alexandria Huntington, she has a plan to create a Children of all 4 seasons. So she's currently doing, I can't remember which season she's on right now. Obviously not Letha, but her plan is to make a deck for each of the 4 seasons and have the card stock and the card backs be the same for each deck, so that if you do want to buy multiple seasons of her tarot deck, you can easily pick your favorite of certain cards and mix them in to your deck. And I love that, because that means that any of the cards in this particular deck that don't totally resonate with me, I could have the chance to get a better version of that particular card in one of her future decks. And I love her art so much that I'm pretty sure I'm gonna buy all of her decks that she puts out. That's one of the Kickstarters I have right now, is an Oracle deck that she is putting out. Next is Dark Angels. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck that is basically just goth children. And it's, I really like it, actually, but there's no diversity in this deck. But this is the deck this is how I wanted to feel about Tarot of Vampires, which I did have at one point. I kept the guidebook, but I passed the deck on. I really do. This deck gives good readings. The art style is so specific to, like, I feel nostalgic for this deck. This feels like the deck that I should have had in high school. Even though this deck was not, when was this deck made? It wasn't made that long ago. I mean, it's not super new, but... ...2010. Yeah. This deck is only 10 years old. But it has fucking Robert Smith as the King of Cups. I mean, you can't argue with that. Like, the other Kickstarter that I'm waiting on is Gothmancy Tarot. So that is going to be... I doubt I'll, like, decide to get rid of this deck. But I'm really excited to have that Gothmancy Tarot because from what I can tell, like, I haven't seen all the artwork because they haven't released all of the artwork. But from what I can tell, it's going to have diversity in it. And that is rare for a goth tarot deck. So I'm super excited about that. But this is a great deck to just, like, take with you to the cemetery. And I do personal readings with this deck because unless someone's... If you request any of these decks, this is also a good time to, like... I'm showing you all of these decks that I own, and if you order a reading from me, might as well get my little card out, right? Yeah. If you order a reading from me, then I will be happy to use any of these decks. But this deck I'm not just going to get out without it being requested because it's not diverse. And that's just how I personally feel about that. So I love this deck for personal use, but I do wish it had... I mean, it's all young, white, able-bodied, skinny people in this deck. So that's unfortunate, but... At this point, I'm like, I don't know for sure. Like, this probably would have been late summer, early fall that I got this deck. I have totally mangled the box. I won't get into that. I was trying to... Yeah, whatever. It was like, this is like a second or third edition of this deck, and she had, like, painted the old box. She had painted over the old box because this tarot used to have a different name. And I wasn't trying to, like, uncover the old name. I wanted to save, like, this sticker that had... I saved that, and I was trying to, like, get the finish off because the darker color of the old box I liked better, but then it ended up just looking really cool and grungy. How I was just like, I was like soaking it in alcohol, trying to get the paint off, and it just didn't work. And so and then I used my label maker to label the side, and I was like, you know what? It's a 90s tarot, and I made it look grungy. That's fine. Somehow I didn't destroy the box. I do regret, though, edging it. Like, I like this color, but it rubs off on my fingers, which you will probably see. So I might have to, like, do, like, a micro trimming. Not cut the entire border off, because, like you can see with this card, like, the hair is coming over the border. This is not a deck that I would want to try to make borderless, because the borders are not uniform. And this is a very Pip style deck, but I really like it with this deck. This deck actually surprised me. Like, it's such a simple deck, almost. But I love it, and it's pretty diverse. I mean, fucking shit. Firouz Balk from The Craft as the Tower card. Is there any better Tower representation you've ever seen in a 90s movie? No, you have not. I love this deck. I love it a lot. The cardstock is really nice. It's kind of like US Games cardstock. It's like kind of stiff, but not too bad. And the finish is like not matte, not shiny. It's just a good in between. The cards slide really easily. There's some color scheming going on. The wands are purple. The cups, I do wish there was a little bit of a differentiation, because like the cups are like sort of a teal, and then the swords are blue, and it's just those two colors are just a little too close if you're going to be color coded about it, you know? And then, yeah. So you got green, blue, and then blue-green, and then purple for the wands. So the wands are really the only color that kind of stands out, but I love it. I love this deck. My only complaint is that because this is perfect. I love Fiona Apple. My only complaint is like anytime you have like a pop culture deck, it's always going to like be, you're going to have some people that just aren't in it, or you're going to think that one of the choices is not a good choice. Like the Queen of Pentacles in this deck is Reese Witherspoon, and I'm like, no. But Angela Chase as a Page of Cups, yes, that works. So there's a little bit of like, I think Buffy's missing from this deck. Like, of course I would say that. I have a Buffy podcast. I'm obsessed with Buffy. I think Buffy's missing from that 90s tarot. So I'd love for like Christy Prokopiak to, at some point, I think like a pop culture deck like this, the best way to do it would be to create alternative cards so that somebody can kind of mix and match their favorite pop culture people. So I'd love for her to include like some characters from Buffy, or, you know, just other pop culture characters. Like I'd love to see a Marilyn Manson card in here or something, you know, just some of my Shirley Manson needs to be in this deck. That's just my personal opinion, that like I'd love for her to create some alternative like court cards and major arcana, so that you can, I would definitely buy, you know, like a pack of like 15 alternative cards and mix and match, you know. Anyway, that's just my opinion, but I do love that deck. And as you can see, my hands are like pruny and teal now. This is Modern Witch, obviously. And this is the special edition. I also have another copy of this that I trimmed and edged in pink. But this is the like gold, the gilded version that has like the, mine is number 171. So this is like the only like deck of real value that I probably have, because it like came with a tarot cloth and a pin and a patch and a tin. And this is like, this would, like I've said before, this would legit be like my favorite deck if the cardstock wasn't so thick and stiff. I love this deck. It is RWS for a Modern Witch. It's all women on different areas of the gender spectrum, on the side of female, on the side of women. And the colors are gorgeous. And there's diversity. There could be a little bit, like there's good size diversity in this deck. There's good racial diversity. There are only a handful of cards that have like older people in them. I mean, it's not terrible. Like there are like 5 or 10 cards with older people in them, but I wish there was a little bit more age diversity. Just personally, but I fucking love this deck. And this is like my most anticipated deck. Like I pre-ordered this thing in like May and I didn't get it until November. That was my first like pre-ordered deck. And it just felt like I was waiting 1,000 years for it. I waited months before I could even pre-order it. Like I discovered this deck was going to be in existence like January last year. And then finally I had it by November. Okay, how far in are we? 34 minutes. Shit. Okay, now I have 6 decks left. Sasarai Bito I bought from Etsy last December. The thing that I love about this deck just so you know, this deck, I have not used it a ton, but this cardstock it's very chip prone and scratch prone. Like, there are scratches on a lot of the cards, it's chipping on the edges, and again, I don't mind, but just so you know, I mean, it's not crappy cardstock, it's easy to shuffle, but it does show wear pretty easily. I got this deck because it's pretty RWS inspired, but it's so emotionally resonant and vulnerable and just like raw. I love this deck, and I get this deck out a lot for client readings as well. There's so much, I just feel so much emotion when I look at this deck. This is a very cups deck for me because it helps me connect to my emotions. And that's something that's kind of hard for me in general. I love it. I really, truly love this deck. Is that all I've been saying this whole video? I truly love this deck. It's so like earthy and I don't know. Like, to me, this is like if Wild Unknown had people in it. I mean, it's obviously a different art style, but it gives me the same feeling that Wild Unknown does, but it has people in it. And this deck does have pretty good, like, age diversity. Like, the kings and queens are older. Oh, look at that. 8 of Cups, cutting your fucking hair. That's a perfect 8 of Cups. Not all the queens are older. I guess not all the kings are older either, but there are some. I kind of want to get, I think I already passed, like, the Queen of Cups, but I kind of want to get to the King of Cups because he's so fucking cute. Oh my god, look at him. Look at him! Oh, I can't take it. I love it. I love this deck. There are like a handful of cards in this deck that I don't really resonate with, but for the most part, very happy with that purchase. Got Vision Quest. It's only been like a few months since I got this one. It was probably like mid-spring or something. And this is a deck that I trimmed it. It's got Native Indigenous Americans energy. And it's very pippy. And it has keywords. And I don't know, it does something to me. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I haven't fully bonded with it, but some cards, when I pull them, I'm just like, oh my god. Is this like a really healing deck, I feel? Like, look at this, 4 of Swords. It's like a reconnecting to nature kind of deck. All the human figures are so peaceful, and like it's almost like you're looking into their eyes and they're forgiving you for something. I don't know if that makes sense. You ever just feel forgiven by a piece of art? I love it. I really do. I don't get it out that often, and I haven't fully bonded with it yet, but it's another one that's like, it's not really for me, kind of like Santa Muerte. This isn't really for me, but it feels like it's still willing to work with me, even though it's not for me. I did have the Muse. I guess I probably should have kept this. If I'm going chronologically, I had the first edition of this deck way before this. I don't remember when I got it. Probably would have been last summer or something. But I got this, the mass market edition, in like April, I think, is when it came. And for some reason, I didn't really connect with it when I had the first edition, but I really have connected with it since getting the mass market edition. Part of that, again, cardstock is so important to me. It's ridiculous. Like, I feel like it shouldn't be so important to me, but like this deck I can shuffle and I couldn't shuffle the first edition. And she changed the imagery in some of the cards, and I like all of the changes. Here's a good example of that. Like, I believe if you go to like the website, which is probably like musetarot.com or something, you can look it up. If you look up the 6 of materials, you can see a representation of every single card on the website. And I think it's the old version if you look up the 6 of materials, and I hated it. I mean, no offense to the artist or to the model and the card, but it just did not connect with me at all, whereas this one really does. I mean, basically, she just added more people of color in the deck. She didn't change that many cards, like maybe 5 or 10 cards, but the changes that she made, like she added some of this like little sparkle coming out of the pot. Like, she made subtle changes like that in a lot of the cards, and then she actually like replaced some of the figures in several of the other cards, and I really like the changes that she made. There were several cards in this deck that bothered me in the first edition that, like, for example, this one. It's better. This is a different figure in this deck, in this second edition. I don't know, I really like it, and this is, I mean, this deck is like one that actually works for, I think, what it's intended to work for. It's a muse tarot. It's supposed to help you with your creativity and getting your projects going, and I feel like this deck actually helps with that. Like, I don't really go to different decks. I don't usually go to a specific deck for a specific purpose. I usually just pick whatever deck I feel like using at the moment, but this deck actually does like to talk to you about creative projects and work, and this deck is kind of musy. And the same day I got Muse Tarot as a pre-order, I got this one as well. Just happened to be in the same package from Amazon. And this is one that I like just discovered and just like bought it immediately. It's a very fairy tale oriented. It kind of reminds me of like Art Nouveau style, but fairy tale Art Nouveau. Fairy tale anime Art Nouveau. I like it a lot. It's not one that I go to that often, but this is a really good one to, oh, look at this. This is my favorite card in the whole deck. This is very Kali energy to me. Like, even though she's not sticking out her tongue, but she has a little rose petal. So it just looks like Kali to me, and I love it. Really do. And it's very RWS style. It's diverse. You know, the thing that everybody always talks about is that it has 4 lovers cards, and the cool thing about this as a tarot reader is that, like, if you order a reading from me and I happen to know that you're a gay man, I can just go through this deck. I can take out the lovers cards that are not the gay men lovers cards and just keep that card in the deck. Or whatever, you know, I can do that. I can tailor the deck to you. I just keep them all the lovers cards in because it is my soul card. So that's just what I do. But if I'm reading for a specific client, I'll usually tailor. Especially if it's a love reading. This deck likes to do love readings too. Go figure, a deck with 4 lovers cards likes to do love readings. This is one that I mean, if you guys have watched my channel, you know I just got this. Tarot of the Holy Spectrum. I still don't know exactly how I feel about it. I really like the artwork. The cardstock is dreamy. Like, listen to that. Oh yeah. I love it. Love the cardstock. The imagery is very interesting. There are some cards I really like. There are some cards I really don't. Like, you guys can look and see all my opinions about this deck if you want. Love this one. Completely changed the way that I view the Judgment card forever. But I don't know if this one's gonna stay in my collection. Like, I'm still on the fence. This is kind of how I am with decks. Like, the first few months that I have them, I usually don't know how I feel about them. Unless, I mean, every once in a while you'll get a deck that, like, you immediately connect to. But for the most part, for me, they're always kind of on, like, a trial probationary period, like the first 6 months I have them, you know. If they even make it that long. This one I just got, like, this is the first edition reissue of Star Child. I just got it, like, less than, well, it's maybe been about 2 weeks at this point. And this is, again, that, like, rose petal type finish, like Children of Letha. So it's very hard to shuffle, but I love it. This one might be, like, typically if I end up getting, like, 2 tarot decks from the same artist, I usually feel like I have to choose one. And if it came down to that, Moonchild would be my choice. But this edition of Star Child resonates with me a lot. I really like these type of cards, like more Pip style, like landscapey cards. I love all the forest energy. It's just an iteration of her artwork that it's so pure to me. I really like it. And this model, she, like, completely deleted from the deck in other editions of this deck. I don't think she appears in any of, like, the Star Child Akashic edition, but she's in several of the cards in this edition, and I really like her energy. I don't know. I'm into it. And she was deleted. Like, I had the Star Child Akashic edition, like the tarot-sized one, but I didn't like the Lover's card in that deck, and I love this Lover's card. I don't know. The color story in this, I think I've said all this stuff already. So you can look at, like, my other recent review of this deck, because I've already put up, like, 2 videos with this deck in it so far, I think. So far I'm really getting along with it. It's still kind of, like, on a trial period. I don't know how it's going to work for me long term, because right now I'm just infatuated with it. So we'll see if that settles into real love or if I just get distracted. But I really think we're going to make it, despite the fact that I already have a tarot deck with this person's art, and usually I feel like I need to choose, but I don't think that's going to happen with this one. I think I'm going to want to keep it. Anyway, pretty happy with this one. So that's my most recent acquisition, and that is my whole tarot deck collection, you guys. Thank you for watching. If you made it this long, you're the best. Thank you so much. Check my description below if you're interested in anything like, I have a Patreon, and at any level of giving, you will have access to my monthly full moon readings, which I do just for my patrons, so it's real impromptu. Like, in the last one, I just started, like, spontaneously doing, like, some spell shit. I, like, got out my cauldron, which is really just an iron teapot, and started, like, writing down things and burning the paper, and it was fun. It's fun. I really love doing those, so head over there. Even if your donation is only $1 a month, you will get access to those, and then other perks as well. And let me know if you want a reading. I now have 10-minute readings. All my readings are 40% off, and I now have options for half-hour readings, hour readings, and 10-minute readings, and there's a couple different options. But if you don't see something that you specifically want, just pick based on time and then tell me like in the notes like what kind of reading you want. And feel free to request any of these tarot decks, any of my oracle decks. If you look back at my other pretty recent video that I did of my oracle deck collection. Yeah, I also have a weekly radio show if you're interested. All that information is always in the description notes. And I also have a Buffy podcast. I have a lot of interests. But thank you guys so much for watching. You're awesome. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!